Okay, Dave, you can go.
Ready? All right, I'll call the meeting to order again. We'll try this again. Welcome to the Todd County Board of Commissioners meeting on Tuesday, May 5th, 2020. All commissioners are present, along with our county coordinator, our auditor treasurer, and chief deputy, and Mike Wizanowski is taking care of the audio-visual part of this. So I will, and welcome to the public for attending if you're viewing this online. So I will ask that we stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Is there any corrections or additions to the agenda?
Mr. Chair, I have an addition to the agenda. I'd like to add a report from Health and Human Services Director Jackie Ock on the COVID-19 status.
Okay, is there anything else? If not, I have a motion to approve the amended agenda, please.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Erickson, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Newman, any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Carried, thank you. Consent items.
Consent items today are meeting minute approval, April 21st, 2020, resignation of social worker, resignation of seasonal EAP worker, resignation public health nurse, resignation chief deputy recorder, hire seasonal water patrol, second position, part-time correctional officer, and a hire of a chief deputy recorder.
Okay, you've heard the consent items, is there a motion?
So move, but with my motion, could I add from now on, we put a date behind these? Because it looked like all these people were within this month, and I know that they were not. But by relaying a date or some kind of information that,
An
I don't know if
effective
that's
date, maybe?
possible or not.
Mr. Chair, that'd be very easy for us to add.
Well, actually, the effective date is not till the board approves that, am I correct?
That's correct.
But the date of resignation would be the day they would hand in
They
their
submitted their
letter.
resignation.
And we can add that.
Okay,
That would be helpful.
all right, yeah, that'd be all right. Okay. Did I have a motion?
I'm
Yes.
so
Oh.
moved.
Is there a second? Commissioner Becker moved, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Kneisel. Discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Carried, thank you. Auditor Treasurer?
My first item today is the auditor warrants. Let me get to that motion here, board action. Background was sent for your review. The recommendation is to approve the commission, no, I'm on the wrong one. Auditor warrants approval of this motion to approve the April 2020 auditor warrant with an ACH and a regular manual payment totaling in the amount of $501,356.07.
Okay, you've heard the board action, is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Kneisel, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Newman, discussion? If not, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Kneisel?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
Commissioner Erickson?
Yes.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Kircher?
Yes.
The next item I have is the commissioner warrants. They were sent for your review. Recommendation is to approve the Board of Commissioners approve the following by motion: to approve the commissioner warrant with an ACH and a regular manual payment totaling in the amount of $39,795.54.
Okay, you've heard the board action, is there a motion?
So move.
Motion by Commissioner Becker, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Erickson, discussion? If not, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Erickson?
Yes.
Commissioner Kneisel?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
Commissioner Kircher?
Yes.
Next item has the Health and Human Service Commissioner warrants. Background was sent for your review. Recommendation is that the Todd County Board of Commissioners approve the following by motion: to approve the Health and Human Service Commissioner warrants with an ACH and a regular manual payment totaling in the amount of $20,906.69.
Okay, you've heard the board action, is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Newman, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Erickson, discussion? If not, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
Commissioner Erickson?
Yes.
Commissioner Kneisel?
Yes.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Kircher?
Yes.
Next item I have is the Health and Human Service SSIS warrants. Background is sent for your review. Recommendation, Todd County Board of Commissioners approves the following by motion. To approve the Health and Human Service SSIS warrants with an ACH and a regular manual payment totaling in the amount of $51,864.54.
Okay, you've heard the board action. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Kneisel. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Becker. Discussion. If not, roll call, please.
Commissioner Kneisel?
Yes.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Erickson?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
Commissioner Kucher?
Yes.
Next item I have is the 2019 Vega BAF, and it is a grant, voting equipment grant. Background is on January 21st, 2020, the Todd County Board of Commissioners adopted the resolution authorizing the Todd County Auditor Treasurer to submit the 2019 voting equipment grant application on behalf of Todd County and its municipalities. Along with Todd County Board of Commissioners has adopted a local election plan equipment which outlines a 3-year phase-in timeline of new election equipment technology countywide. 2018 through 2020. The Todd County Auditor Treasurer's Office has received notification that Todd County has been awarded the grant funds from the 2019 Voting Equipment Grant Fund via the Office of the Minnesota State Secretary of State. The 2019 voting grant equipment funds are intended to offset the cost of the year 3, our final equipment upgrade purchases scheduled for 2020, of the assistive voting device, which is called the AutoMark, more known as, and it's its replacement. Options are to accept the 2019 Vega grant funds, do not accept them. Our recommendation is that we accept the 2019 voting equipment grant award and authorize the Todd County Auditor Treasurer to sign the grant award contract for and on behalf of Todd County and the municipalities. It is a budgeted item.
Okay, you've heard the board action. Is there a motion?
So move.
Motion by Commissioner Becker. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Newman. Discussion? Not, all's in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
The next item we have is the 2020 Memorial Day Appropriations. The Todd County Board of Commissioners approves the following by motion: to approve the attached resolution for the 2020 Memorial Day appropriations to the organizations within Todd County. It's a budgeted item, and there are 7 senior citizen centers that receive donations, and then there are the local cemeteries and American Legions and VFW posts within the county.
Okay, you heard the board action. Is there a motion?
So moved. Okay.
Motion by Commissioner Newman, second by Commissioner Kneisel. Discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
And I guess I had the senior citizens on its separate one. Sorry about that. So the next one I have is the 2020 Senior Citizens Center appropriations. And the background, or the recommendation is that the Todd County Board of Commissioners approve the following by motion: to approve the attached resolution for the 2020 Senior Citizen Center appropriations to the organizations within the county. It's a budgeted item.
Okay, is there a motion? You've heard the board action.
So moved.
Well, motion by Commissioner Erickson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Becker. Discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
The next item we have today is the 2020 property tax penalty abatement. Governor Tim Walz issued emergency executive orders in March and April 2020 declaring a peacetime state of emergency in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. The Todd County Board of Commissioners desire to provide temporary relief to its residents' businesses that have been directly or indirectly impacted by the pandemic's economic pressure results in unemployment loss or reduced wages and the loss of business income. The Todd County Board of Commissioners may, with the concurrence of the Todd County Auditor Treasurer, abate the penalty for late payment of property taxes pursuant to Minnesota Statute 279.01 Subdivision 2. Your options are to adopt the attached resolution or do not adopt the attached resolution. The recommendation is that to adopt the attached resolution requesting that the Todd County Auditor Treasurer partially abate the penalty on the late payment of property taxes for payable 2020. And I'll just go to that resolution so you can see the,
I will open for discussion before we vote. Any discussion?
Yes, I'm definitely in favor of it, But I see that we never filled in the blanks for, percentage and how we would go up on it.
That's why we left them blank for you as a board to decide. Currently now, it would be after May 16th, like on the homestead ones. That's why I brought this chart up. You'll see it's 2%. I know some counties have just eliminated that percentage till
That
like
would be
June
like a
1st.
0%.
Yep, and then they would go in each month up until that August 1st deadline. They would change the percentages if you wish to do so. That's the board's decision. That's why we left those blanks up there for you to fill in.
What would your recommendation to be through June 1st would be 0% through, and then July 1st would be the first time, or June 1st you would up it by like 1% then?
Yeah, you could do, what I've heard some counties have done,
Okay.
and I'm not saying all of them, and maybe Chris has some more information that I'm not aware of, but some counties have done from May 16th to June 1st, a 0. And then your June 1st, either take it down to 1 or 2%, because concurrently right now it would be 4%. And then July is 5%, so your options are to take that down to 3 or down to 2. As we talked about at the last meeting, it's the dollar amounts for penalty, it helps the individual, but it's not going to be that big of a burden on the county.
Well, I had some discussion with a Stearns County Commissioner, and he said their auditor treasurer came up with a pretty good system on how to do it, because he said there's so many different tax variables. You got businesses, you got private, you got rec, you got all kinds of stuff, that his auditor kind of came up with a spreadsheet on how I don't know if they adopted it or what they did. Have you had discussion with him at all, Denise?
No, I have not. I sent an email the first time we were
Yeah, I
talking
know.
about this, and nobody from there got back to me.
But this is what one of their commissioners was telling me. Our next board, what reason I'm looking here, our next board meeting is the 19th. The deadline for property taxes is what?
15.
15th.
Yeah. The thing that I like about what we're doing right here is it's simple, it's fair across the board. I believe that if people have the money or the ability to pay their taxes, they will be paying them. This helps anybody that's put in a bind by not being in business, by losing a job, who knows the number of things. And every case it can be different. This treats, I think, everybody fairly. They know up front what it is. It's not a lot of help, but yet it's something.
Well, I think in looking at the chart, because all the classifications are listed, I think your May 16th to June 1st would be 0 across the board for all of them. And then looking at your June 1st, just go down 2% on those, because that is giving them a significant break. And then on July, then just do another 2% off of what it would be. I think that's what most of the counties have been doing, is just reducing it gradually, not taking such a big impact.
If I may,
I had her look
just
this up.
researching on the Stearns County website, for their press release regarding this, it says the Stearns County Board of Commissioners voted to waive late penalties for first half property taxes for property owners financially impacted. Instead of May 15th deadline, penalties will be waived for payments received by July 15th. And it does not apply to properties that are escrowed, utilities, or have a total annual tax bill over $100,000.
And that's what we should give some consideration. The escrow would be hard to deal with, wouldn't it?
We wouldn't want to touch the
Right.
escrows because we just got large payments in, and we're just receiving another 1.4 million from
But-
CoreLogic tomorrow.
Did you not, somewhere in here, and I didn't read it, but have in there that anything that was paid could not be reimbursed? So an escrow would already have been paid in. Correct?
Correct. Yep. It's in our resolution.
What was the other one?
The
Julie?
large amount.
Your big utility companies.
Okay.
But they didn't give a percentage of what they just extended that?
They just extended 0 straight to July 15th.
Oh, okay.
0%.
It's 0% all the way till July 15th in Stearns,
Okay,
with the exclusion of those escrows, utilities.
well, I think
And
that
properties over a certain amount?
100,000,
Yeah, over 100,000.
that's, that kind of sounded good to me when he was describing it to me, and I forgot most of it because we were just talking, but it kind of sounded to me to be the way to handle it because, number one, escrow is difficult to deal with. The bigger companies most likely want to pay their taxes and get it over with. And the people with the over 100, what was it, 100,000?
$1,000
You know,
in tax.
tax would be quite an impact on us if we didn't do that, so, I don't know what your wishes are, board members, but,
Well, I believe if we're going to pass something, we have to do it today, because otherwise to me, it's meaningless. It's got to be done before.
well, I could call a special meeting to address this particular subject. So that I guess I want to do it
What
the right
part of
way, so.
Stearns do we not have in? Do we not have in over the $100,000 mark of taxes? That's not included in this one? Different from Todd County to
Right.
Stearns County.
We haven't pulled the numbers of who's our largest tax-paying dollar-wise. That wasn't an option in this. We were just looking at reducing the penalty when we brought this one forward.
I think too, Mr. Chair, if we had some kind of guideline from the state on when they're gonna open up or do things like Barb was commenting, if you knew when some of those people were going back to work and could start to generate income, it would help in setting your pattern on what you were gonna be doing. Right now, we have no idea what's gonna be happening, and so, you know, who we're benefiting or what good it's gonna do, but I don't think it does any good to go just to June 1st, because I don't think anything's gonna be happening by then, so.
Right.
If you're gonna extend it, you might as well extend it out a ways and make it worthy of.
For the first
for the-
half
for the-
anyway, right?
Yeah, for
Yeah, for
that
the first
first,
half.
If I may, Mr. Chair, if you do that, just from the auditor's office side, we definitely have to stress that the ones that have been paid could not come back and
Right,
ask that.
absolutely.
And then also this kind of, what's their incentive to pay? If you just extend it out, we might not have any money coming in like we have right now. We gave you that sheet where we're, receiving.
Well, we're ahead of tax
Payments.
collection right now, right, compared to last year.
that's
Right.
the other side of it, is.
I'm just
how
saying
much
that's
of
the other side
How
of
much
the
of a
coin.
burden is it for the county? I mean, by doing something like what we're talking about there to go to July 1st or August 1st, I mean, is that gonna put a huge financial pinch on us not being able
Well,
to
if-
bring that money in?
I'm just saying, if you look at it from the receiving money end of it, if people know that if this way it gives them incentive, well, we still have to pay, even if we pay a little late, we're gonna have penalties, so let's just get it paid. Whereas I'm not saying that I'm not here to help the people, but then
Yep.
if it comes down to where people all are hurting and don't pay, then you guys are the banker, because we still have to do our settlements for whatever we do get in. And, schools and municipalities can reach out to us and request their money. They may not because of the times, but they have that state and law that they can ask for advanced funds of their settlement, even if we don't have the money. That's my only concern, is that you watch the,
Well, my suggestion would be that we waive the first half penalty till July 1st, because then hopefully by then we know what's happening. And that we include the exclusions that Stearns has in our board action or motion. That way, we are assured of the certain taxes coming in. But my biggest concern is businesses, but the ag people are really struggling, so, their input right now is high, and they have no idea what they're gonna get for their crops if they even get anything because of
Can't even
this.
get rid of my beef.
That's what I was going to say, that a lot of contracts are not
So,
following through.
that's my suggestion, that we waive the penalty for the first half till July 1st, and then after that, we'll see what happens with the governor and everything else. We should know by then, and then address the second half then, but that's my suggestion.
So you would go zeros till
July 1st.
through July 1st, and then July 1st going on with, you would go July 1st, it would be then up to, I can't see what the penalty would be, July 1st.
July
Would be
1st is 5.
5%.
5%.
Non-homestead would be
Well,
9.
my thought was the board could address it before July 1st if we wanted to extend it longer. Then we could, at least we're gonna go to July 1st and for the first half and exclude the ones that Stearns has excluded. And that way we're helping the small businesses, the ag and so.
That way it's across the board.
Right.
It's across the board.
So
I
forth.
think that's very important, yes. I'll make that a motion, if you would accept it at this
If you
point.
one up, Julie?
Mm.
Where would you like words? And I will type.
Okay, so it would be 0 through May, 0 in June.
Yep.
And then we would address it,
Would you like to?
we would have to address
Well,
it the
elim-
last meeting of June.
Last
Yep,
meeting.
well, eliminate B.
The second B.
Yep, the second B. So 0, eliminate second B, and revisit it July 1st.
No, we'd have to revisit it
June,
June.
Yep.
before the July 1st meeting, before July.
Okay,
And with the exclusion that Stearns has, am I correct?
That's
Yes.
correct.
Yep.
With,
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and you're gonna develop that board action, right?
exactly how you said it.
Okay. Motion by Becker, second by Kenizel. Any more discussion? If not, all's in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you, Board. Next item then is the fiscal year 2019 audit report presentation. I believe we have Doug Host online from Clifton Larson Allen and Kristen Hool from
This one.
Clifton Larson Allen.
We're just gonna use this one, guys, I think, so. Okay, Doug and Kristen, are you on?
Doug is here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes?
Yep, Kristen's on too.
All right, cool. Well, I will kick this exit presentation off then, and I just want to say it's, again, a pleasure to present the audit results to you. I also have to be honest, I kind of miss seeing everybody there as well, but I appreciate your flexibility in these times of dealing with COVID-19 virus. But hopefully next year we can be back to close to normal, at least anyhow. But yeah, with me today is Kristen Hool, who was the engagement director on your audit, and she will be presenting part of the presentation today as well. So I believe everyone has the PowerPoint handout that we kind of walked through in years past, and on page 2 it just lists out the things we'll go over here today. But to start out with, on page 4, it's required communications. And there's 2 ways we can do this, and one is by issuing a separate letter. It's 4 pages long, and I believe all the board members have a copy of that very boilerplate letter. There are a couple changes to it for this year, and I'll just touch on those. But basically, it's the same as last year, except you implemented a very significant new accounting standard in your financial statements this year, and basically changed how your agency funds are reported, like Todd Wadena Community Corrections, Todd Soil and Water, the Trails Association, and a few other of the funds that used to be called agency funds are now called custodial funds. And in your financial statements themselves, it now includes an operating statement. So that's kind of the big difference in that letter. I'm again happy to report that we didn't encounter any difficulties in doing the audit, and we also did not have any disagreements with management as we performed the audit. One key, very, very, very key thing to point out this year is the staff at the county were even more helpful than usual due to the dealing with COVID-19. And basically, we needed to complete the final part of the audit remotely. And I know that did entail some additional work and time for scanning information and uploading it to our portal. And just a huge thank you to all the county staff who did what they had to do in order to allow us to complete the audit. Thank you. Along with that, I'm not 100% positive, but pretty sure that Todd County is the first Minnesota county to have its 2019 audit completed, and also the first to implement that new accounting standard regarding your what's now called custodial fund. So if I was there, I'd give you all a big thumbs up for those accomplishments. So great job. With that, I will turn it over to Kristen, who will touch on some internal control, single audit results, and the Minnesota legal compliance.
Thanks, Doug. So first off, you'll see on page 5 and then into 6 that we go over the internal control findings. So this is financial reporting related. You will see on page 6, there are 3 material weaknesses that we reported. Those are the same 3 you've seen over the years. The first one is segregation of duties, just because you are a small county and many of the departments don't have the proper staff to segregate the duties fully from a control standpoint. The next one is audit adjustment. We had to adjust several things to close out the year. One of the big things this year, like Doug mentioned, was implementing GASB 84. So we made all the switches that we had to. And also any accruals that we found while testing, booking the net pension liability, things like that. And then the final material weakness was controls over financial reporting. So that is that CLA actually prepped the financial statements. And then Denise and Candace reviewed those. So those material weaknesses are more severe than significant deficiency, and it's just that there's more of a reasonable possibility that a material misstatement could happen. On page 7, you will see that you actually did not have any significant deficiencies. So that was all the financial reporting findings. On page 8 and 9, we go into the Minnesota legal compliance issues we found. So during our testing, we go over a 25-page checklist that has current state statutes that we are required to test at the Minnesota State Auditor Office. So we did find 3 things during this year's audit. The first one was a finding last year as well. It is regarding the ditch cash deficit. So this year, 12 of your 43 active ditch systems had deficit cash balances as of year end. The next 2 were new this year. The first one being that there were 2 out of 40 invoices we tested that were not paid within the 35 days. It's required by state statute. And the other one is that when disbursements were published in the newspaper, only the credit card company was published, not the actual vendor names. So that's just a transparency thing for the taxpayer, so they can see who you're actually paying on your credit card bill. Any questions on those so far before I go into the single audit?
No.
Okay. So then the last part is the federal single audit. This year we tested 2 major programs. They were medical assistance and child support again. We had no findings over child support, and we had 1 over medical assistance. Last year you did have a medical assistant finding as well. It was different, so we did resolve that one over procurement. And then we had a new one over eligibility. So during our case file testing of the METS and MAGI systems, we found that 3 of 60 case files did not have the proper asset documentation. So what was on file did not match to Maxis. So yeah,
One thing,
overall.
Kristen, if I could just
Yep.
add one little tidbit here. I mean, we basically audited medical assistants in all 27 or 28 counties that we audit in the state right now. And this particular item about the asset documentation in the case file, not matching what's in like Maxis, I think is a situation that's occurring in every county in the state. There may be, or well, at least the ones we audit, there might be one where we didn't come across the same item. So ultimately, it really it's a clerical thing. A lot of times the information is in the case file, but just getting the information transferred into Maxis accurately tends to cause some stumbling blocks. But that's all.
Jackie, do you have any
So
comment?
that was,
Jackie, do you have any comment on that? Or is Jackie on? Okay, sorry, go ahead.
oh, I was just going to say that was the only federal single audit. So really good job on that. Then the next section is financial results, which Doug is going to go over.
All right, page 13, everybody. This is a chart that tells us a lot of information, and based on dealing with COVID-19 and the potential of people not paying their taxes when due because of losing their jobs or not being able to operate the businesses or dumping milk, having adequate reserves takes on an increased importance for the county. So let's take a look at where we were sitting at the end of 19 anyhow. You see in the chart over the last 4 years, your fund balance reserves have been increasing, slightly each year, which is a good thing. You ended 2019 with a little over 5.5 months of a cushion, and that's good. If you were down in the 2 to 3 month range, I think the concept of, allowing people more time to pay their property taxes could really strapped the county for cash flow purposes. But, as I see it right now at the end of 19, you had some pretty good reserves, so hopefully that will help you weather this COVID-19 storm. But, overall, your fund, this is all your governmental funds combined. And there's a couple different ways we measure it, and the third bullet point there just looks at, okay, of your, how much of unrestricted fund balance do you have as a percentage of revenues? And at the end of 19, it was about 44%. The OSA recommends, 35 to 50%. So at a minimum. So overall, governmental funds, as we ended 19, were healthy. I would anticipate that there may be a dip in that based on, what I hear and read about the economy right now. So I think I mentioned that story last year about a city that I audited in another state where they were sitting great financially and they started to spend some of their accumulated fund balance, and in 2 years it was all gone. I'll just on that story again and say, with the uncertainty of the economy, right? That's point.
Okay, Doug, we lost you a little bit there.
Well, shoot, sorry. I'd just say be careful as you move into 2020, and as far as maybe thinking that it's okay to dip into your reserves. It may be a reality that you have to. So when there's some discretionary type things, just keep that in mind that having reserves is going to be important. And if this actually rolls over for 18 to 24 months or something, 2021 may be a pretty tough year as well for all the citizens of Todd County. Well, the whole country, but and you've done a great job over the years of building up your reserves. So I think that really sends a message that you're aware that the reserves are important. So just keep it up, basically. I apologize if I am breaking up a little bit. I don't have very good cell signal in my home office. It's almost my mobile office in my truck. I have better signal than in my house. I could have gone in my truck, I suppose. But, all right, page 14 is the chart and the graph that looks where the county received its money or the revenues in 2019. As you look, Tax revenues and special assessments were up about 770,000, about 4.8% in 2019. Intergovernmental revenues were up about 1.1 million, which is mostly due to an increase in the highway user tax received in the Road and Bridge Fund. And charges for services was actually down about 330,000 due to housing fewer prisoners from Becker County, and that was to a tune of about a decrease of 250,000. So all in all, your governmental fund saw a 4.5% increase in revenues. So that's good. Page 15 looks at where the governmental fund spent the money, and I'll just point out a couple of things that, are changed quite a bit from the prior year. The highways and streets was up about 2.2 million. And it's kind of the secondary impact of the state sending, more money to the county for roads. Well, then the expenditures are going to go up. So that was expected. Human services saw a decrease of about 1.5 million. Another good situation really is there's a decrease in the number of kids in out-of-home placement costs for the year. So I think that's definitely a positive and a trend that we're seeing statewide at the county level. As you all probably know, the previous years we're seeing the out-of-home placement costs going up and up and up. So it's good to see a little bit of a drop in that. The health department area saw about a $700,000 decrease, and the reason for that was in 2018 there was a large payment to South Country Health Alliance that did not occur in 2019. So overall, the expenditures were up only about 0.5%. So, say a good year overall. Page 16, we look at the general fund specifically. As you look at the chart, you can see that for 5 years in a row, the revenues have exceeded the expenditures, and that's allowed the county to build up adequate reserves. The revenues came in over budget during the year, and the expenditures came in a bit under budget, and that translates to about a $2.1 million increase in the reserves for the general fund. The general fund by itself has about 10 months of reserves built up, so the general fund balance is definitely strong and stable, and that's important, especially in these times, because it will ultimately need to cover any shortages or deficits that arise in any of the other funds. So the general fund is in good financial position. Road and Bridge on page 17, this is the first time in 5 years that the expenditures have exceeded the revenues. And we do see a little bit of a roller coaster or, some ups and downs in Road and Bridge funds just because of the nature of the funding. So much of it is dependent upon how much revenues the state passes on to the county. So that's kind of expected. But for 2019, the fund balance decreased about 224,000, and the Road and Bridge Fund reserves are about 2.67 months, which is a little bit below the recommended minimum levels. But I will point out that the Road and Bridge Fund did receive about $2 million in highway user tax in February of 2020. So, and that's typical that a big influx of revenues in this fund occur in the February or March timeframe, which definitely helps with cash flows. Page 18, the Social Services Fund. Expenditures have been in excess of revenues for the last 5 years, and as we ended 19, it was just shy of 5 months of reserve. So just, kind of right in that recommended range, at least minimum range. But the revenues were down about $540,000 in 2019. And a big part of that is something that was beyond the control really anyone at the county, dealing with MAS state recoveries. There were 2 very large medical assistance state recoveries that occurred in 2018, which shot those revenues up, and there weren't any similar type recoveries in 2019. You can see the expenditures decreased a lot, like 1.7 million. And as mentioned earlier, there are fewer kids in out-of-home placement costs. So that happens, that's going to allow the expenditures to decrease. So for the year, there's about a $1.7 million, or no, 1.7 month increase in the Social Services Fund reserves. So that's good. Community Health on slide 19, the current year revenues and expenditures almost break even. It looks about like 12,000. Fund balance in this fund are at the recommended minimum levels. So that fund appears to be pretty stable as well as we roll into 2020. Page 20, the Solid Waste Enterprise Fund. If you look at the chart, the pink and the blue lines are operating revenues and expenses, and definitely over the years, these have stayed very close to one another, but ultimately always ending up operating at a bit of a profit and resulting in positive changes in its reserves, or this fund is called net position. So for 2019, its net position or reserves increased about 85,000. A couple things to point out here. The revenues and expenses jumped up quite a bit from 18 to 19. The increase in revenues is really a factor of two items. There was a bump up in the rates and fees charged, and actually there's an increase in the garbage and demo materials that were taken in, which adds to revenues. The expenditures also increased and definitely coincides with an increase in the amount of materials handled. But then there's a bunch of other really much smaller items, but when you add them together, they add up to a decent amount. There's a little increase in wages, increase in the pension expenditures, some increases in contracted services, and an increase in professional services, which were offset by some new grant money in that fund. So all in all, solid waste is sitting pretty well at the end of 19 as well. Page 22, just try to bring it all home here, summarize it. As far as financial stability goes for the county and larger funds, the general fund reserves are at above the recommended minimum level and trending upward, which is good. Public Works is a little below the recommended levels, but as we mentioned, their cash flow stream is a bit different and allows for cash flow to be a little bit different than the funds that are, let's say, more reliant on tax revenue collections. Social Services Fund has been stable over the last 6 years. Community Health Fund also stable and above the recommended minimum fund balance levels. So, and Solid Waste saw a 4% increase in net position, so that's good. Page 23, I know Krista mentioned, the 3 reportable items that we're required to communicate to the board, and just kind of always as a reminder to periodically review the different segregation of duty situations that exist. And the audit standards even say when it comes to segregation of duties, you should always do a cost-benefit analysis to see if it makes sense to implement changes in order to eliminate that segregation of duties comment. To put it a different way, is it cost beneficial to, I'll just pick a number, hire 10 more people in order to fully segregate the accounting functions to get rid of that one finding, that may not be cost beneficial because it would cost a lot to hire, let's say 10 people. So just keep that in mind as you roll forward through 2020. And then again, just kudos to the county for implementing GASB, Governmental Accounting Standards Board number 84, regarding your fiduciary funds reporting. So with that, again, I want to thank everybody and have time for questions.
Board members, questions? Don't appear there is any, Doug.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody. Stay safe.
Yep.
And looking forward to next year's audit already.
Okay, thank you, Kristen and Doug.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, we don't need a motion, do we, to do this? To accept the report, or?
Just review.
Okay,
Just a report.
all right. All right, we'll move on. Public Works, Lauren?
Morning, everybody.
Morning.
Morning.
All right, our one item on the agenda this morning for Public Works is the request to award a contract and replace the roof at the Northern Shop. A little bit of background. The Public Works Northern Shop was constructed in the summer of 2001 and has recently experienced a number of small leaks through the existing EPDM roofing system. So we went out and received two quotes for the replacement of this roof. One from Herzog Roofing for $40,640, and the other from Buttweiler's Do All Incorporated quote for $51,330. So our options are to approve the low quote to Herzog Roofing or Buttweiler's Do It All, or do not replace the Northern Shop at this time, but our recommendation at this time is to approve the attached Herzog Roofing quote of $40,640.
Okay, you've heard the request and board action. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Kneisel to do the Herzog Roofing. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Erickson. Discussion? If not, all's in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you, Lauren.
All right, thank you.
Facilities, Mitch?
Good morning, everyone. I have one item here for the Staples parking lot tar. The background is the parking lot in the Northern Government Center is in need of replacement. Bids were submitted with the low bid being from Ideal Construction for $38,814 to remove and replace old tar along with restriping of the parking lot. The options are to approve the bid from Ideal Constructions for $38,814 to remove and replace old tar along with restriping, or do not approve budgeted requests. The recommendation is to approve the bid from Ideal Construction for $38,814 to remove and replace old tar along with the restriping of the parking lot, and this is a budgeted request.
Are they a local?
Yes, they are. We received two bids. One was from Anderson Brothers, and the other one was from Ideal. Ideal is out of Staples.
Okay.
Anderson Brothers was the company that received the county contract, and we waited until that was finalized to reach out to them.
Okay. All right, you've heard the request. Is there a motion?
So move.
Motion by Commissioner Becker. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Kneisel. Discussion? Not all's in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Thanks, Mitch. Mitch, did you have anything to report on the Expo building? Anything to the board?
I can give a little update.
Yeah.
I definitely can. Right now, the facilities committee moved, we're spray foaming the envelope. We had a little discussion on that. Right now, the north side of the sidewall of the Expo building is completely retinned, along with the west side. And they were currently today, they're working on the east side gable end to start the retinning that. We are on schedule. Everything is going as planned. We've had a few hiccups along the road, which was to be expected, but otherwise, moving right along. The contractor has had multiple crews there. And as I last reported, we did have a little discrepancy on the beams. They were being repainted, and re-sandblasted down. But so far, so good. Yeah, I mean, everything was scheduled. The outside exterior as far as the product to get that was on time. They received that last week, I think Wednesday, so far so good. And probably next board meeting, especially, there'll be a lot more actual movement forward instead of deconstructing. We'll probably have a presentation for the board so they can actually see photographs of what went on, and then go from there.
Good.
So,
All
all right.
Thanks.
Yep, thank you.
Soil and water.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning, Adam.
I have Reba's on the line also if there's any specific questions to report, but our one item today is the feedlot program annual report. MPCA requires the annual reporting from counties to be reviewed and accepted or signed by the Board of Commissioners. The attached report includes activities and accomplishments for the 2019 year. The options are to approve the MPCA feedlot program annual report or do not approve the report. And the recommendation at this time is approval of the MPCA feedlot annual report for 2019.
Okay, have you heard the request? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Canizzo, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Becker. Discussion? Thank you for that brief report. All those emotions, all those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you very much. Have a good day, guys.
All right, GIS.
Mr. Chair and members of the board, I have a board action this morning on behalf of GIS for the acceptance of a NG 911 GIS grant. The background is the Central Minnesota Emergency Services Board applied for and has been awarded federal NG 911 GIS grant funds on behalf of all counties within the central region. The grant funds are to be used for costs associated with the NG 911 GIS data pre-processing and data validation. Todd County's eligible grant award is $28,670.01. Upon submission of quarterly progress reports, Todd County will be reimbursed for costs associated with the data pre-processing and validation. This is a non-matching grant, and Todd County is eligible to receive up to 100% of the grant award. And the options are to accept the NG 911 GIS grant or to not accept, and the recommendation is to accept the NG 911 grant.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is in board action? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Erickson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Newman. Discussion? Not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Carried, thank you.
Thank you. The next board action that I have is for a resolution reaffirming the hiring process during COVID-19 pandemic. And the background for this is actually a carryover from our last board meeting where we had some discussion on a potential hiring freeze, and we worked through the personnel committee and came up with just a reaffirmation of what we currently are doing. The background is the Todd County Board of Commissioners recognizes the county is operating in unprecedented times and desires to be very conscientious and deliberate in its processes during the COVID-19 pandemic. During this pandemic time, the Board of Commissioners wishes to reaffirm the hiring process and requests department heads to use extra scrutiny when a vacancy exists. And the options are to approve the attached resolution or to not approve, and the recommendation is to approve the attached resolution.
All right, you've heard the motion and the resolution request, and basically the way I understand it, we really aren't changing anything. We're just using more scrutiny when we go through the process.
Mr. Chair, that is correct, and I would like to say that currently we do have several positions that are in a hold pattern, and they are in a hold pattern for these exact reasons. The department heads are using very much scrutiny when they are looking at doing any type of replacements for those vacancies. There's some issues revolving around training opportunities, specifically in health and human services, so they're being very cautious on what they're doing and the timing of those bringing staff on and actually going through the recruitment process. So I think department heads are doing their very due diligence in this process at this time.
One thing I did not hear was the exception of the sheriff's office. By statute, he has the authority to replace and without approval, so is that,
I did not specifically write that in. I can make sure that's added.
I think we should put that in there so that he has the option to continue with what he's, has to do, so.
Thank you. I'll put that in as an exception.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion?
So move.
Motion by Commissioner Becker. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Newman. Discussion.
Yes, Mr. Chair. I've been having discussions with our neighboring county commissioners, and I think the consensus is, our concern is the second half of our taxes for the majority of the counties, and I know in this area. The governor keeps extending this shutdown period. We got a lot of small businesses that are either gonna somewhat make it, or there's gonna be a lot of them that are gonna fail. And it's sad to see. Farmers are struggling out there. I think as a county, we need to look at our hiring process and keep it in control, because right now, none of us has the magic ball to say what's gonna happen. How long is this gonna go on? They're canceling stuff into August. And I'm getting phone calls from my constituents going, Jesus, Randy, we're going crazy. We gotta do something. It's either losing our property or their mental capacity is, people are on edge right now. And I think this needs to be addressed. We need to watch what we're doing as far as hiring. So.
Well, again, our process, I think, is pretty thorough. We've developed this in the past, and I think, well, from what I hear from the resolution, we're just reaffirming that process. And I've been on the Personnel Committee now for 2 years, and it ain't that we don't talk things through and see what fits the budget and what doesn't. So I think this board has been very diligent in watching what we're doing and how we're doing it. I don't disagree that we got to, in the future here, we got to, like you said, we don't have a crystal ball, but in the future, we're probably going to have to maybe tighten our belts just a little more and just see what's going on. So, but for now, I think we've got a lot on hold. It's just that we aren't, well, for one thing, it's difficult to interview and do applications. That's a difficult process right now, if you can even manage it, but I think we are watching that in our P's and Q's, so. All right, any more discussion? If not, all's in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Jackie.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. I'm just here to provide you a situational update. Todd County, as of today, I'm notified generally the evening before around 5, anywhere from 5 to 6 if we have any additional positives for the following day. So we are still at 15 lab confirmed positives. We fully anticipate this number to go up because of the increased capacity for testing. Employers are able to test their employees that are symptomatic now. So we're seeing that happening at our larger industries in town, in Staples, which with that comes numbers, right? So we have a wide variety of ages that are testing positive. We have a couple under the age of 19. Our most significant number of positives lie between the ages of 50 and 59. We have, it has not been reported to me that we have any hospitalized or any deaths at this point within Todd County. I know Sturds County is not reporting that at this time. I think they've had their first death within the last week. So most of them are community transmitted, acquired, and home self-quarantine. So that's good. They're able to quarantine themselves. Our website is updated every day. We do that before the 11 o'clock press release comes out from MDH. We're finding that some of the numbers that are reported on MDH is not what has been reported to us, because they're still trying to catch up with their case contact investigations and reporting it on their website. So as these positive tests go to MDH, the infection control nurses or the hospitals notify us, and then that's how we're able to know what the tally is in Todd County. They try to really be consistent at the state, at the governor's, the situational update with MDH, but there has been some variances, so. Symptoms remain the same. If you are symptomatic with a cough or shortness of breath, those are the two primary symptoms that reporting that come with the positive, as well as the fever, the chills, shaking with the chills, muscle aches, headaches, sore throat. New one is loss of taste or smell. So they're still learning a lot about the virus. We're hoping, as the President Trump had stated, that we can have a vaccine by the first of the year. Hoping that'll happen. Not all that optimistic it will happen, because usually with a new vaccine, it takes 18 months to generate that and to grow that. So when those come in, we will be probably doing a mass vaccination here. So as you all know, that the governor did extend the stay-at-home order. We'll follow that and offer recommendations to our business owners and educate as much as we can. We put out press releases on a regular basis, probably weekly, to offer resources and educate our community as well. We just want to make sure that they're getting all the current information, as well as that's all on our website too. So we're reaching out to the business owners, fire departments, city administrators, leaders of Catholic, or not Catholic, but organizations, church leaders, ministries. So we reach out and talk with them and have a conference call that's led by our emergency manager, Mike Wisniewski, weekly. It's been fairly well attended. Our hospitals are on it as well. So I think we're answering or trying to be as receptive we can at all times to our community members, and asking for, if we're missing something, that they let us know. So we'll do the same to you all.
Okay, Mr. Chair, if I could. Jackie, when you find out that there is a positive, do you go back and let the people surrounding that person know, or what's the procedure there?
Currently, MDH is doing case contact investigations. They are leading that. So they will contact the individual and they'll ask where they've been in the last so many days to see what their tracing has been, who their employer is, what's their date of their onset. And then we don't hear as an MDA or as a local public health those findings. What they give us is a name, an address, and an age. That's it. We don't need to know who their employer is. Okay. So yeah, the MDH is looking at possibly engaging with local public health agencies to see if they would be willing to help with case contacts, because I understand there's quite behind right now.
Which is really negative for the surrounding people. You know, if you were notified of an infection somewhere, it would be helpful to lead people from.
And which is why we've gotten a hold of our infection control nurses at our hospitals that are notifying us, that to make sure that the physicians are following up with those patients and giving them the appropriate education and guidance around isolation and how to take care of themselves at home, because everybody's been at home.
I think one of the things, Barb, that runs interference with this is the HIPAA rules.
Absolutely.
You know,
and we see that more and more. Yeah.
So, I mean, if we didn't have the HIPAA rules, we wouldn't have that. Jackie, maybe you said, and I didn't catch it, of the 15 that are positive, how many have recovered?
At this point, we had, was it 7 this weekend we were notified, so those are still in quarantine. I don't have, again, we don't get that information from the state. Okay. So I would probably say 5 or 6 are out of quarantine at this point of our 15 positive.
Because we had some early on, a couple, you know.
Right.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, Jackie, last night on the news, they showed the drive-through testing in the cities. Okay, you drive the car, and they said there was 5 days before the people would find out whether they had it or not. What the hell, what good does that do? I mean.
And that's some of what we've been working with our healthcare facilities, with our large businesses, to have either on-site testing or curbside testing. So Lakewood has curbside testing. Tri-County's got curbside testing, as well as Centricare here in Long Prairie has curbside testing. One business does have on-site testing because they're a large employer. Turnaround times, we understand from Central Carolina Prairie is anywhere from 24 to 48 hours. It depends on when that test specimen is collected to when it can be actually transported to the lab for confirmation. So, and sometimes those timings are minutes. Maybe that courier had left, so it's gotta wait till the next day to be couriered down to the lab to be,
Can that
tested.
test show if you had it passed?
No.
Yeah. Is there a blood test or something that?
There is something that is coming out that they're in the middle of developing to do serology, which is blood, to deem whether you've had it historically or not. At this time, what we have is the nasal swab to test whether you have it today or not. So we could test everybody in the county today, but it doesn't mean that they're not gonna be possibly positive a week from now. So it is.
And we have the test available now.
Yes, there is capacity for anybody to be tested if they're symptomatic.
But you could have it and not be symptomatic.
Yes.
Could be a carrier.
Many are positive and do not carry symptoms, which is why they recommend face coverings to protect. If I wear it, it's a source control to protect the people around you. It doesn't protect you, the person wearing the mask, but it protects the individuals that are around you.
Which is true with other diseases also. Can be no symptoms and carriers.
Many things are carried through droplet. They were even talking about, I think the World Health Organization, WHO is what they call it, really trying to, I want to say eliminate, but discourage handshaking. And that alone with the influenza would significantly reduce transmission. So, and that's a gentleman's thing, you know, you shake hands often and frequently, and they're recommending that we possibly don't do that going forward.
They got a new one out where you kick your feet with each other and
Yeah,
something.
or elbow bump.
So-
Well, Mr. Chair, Jackie, do they know if they're giving them hydroxychloroquine, or?
You know, I don't really know where that's all at, where efficacy is, and if the FDA approved that, that would probably be a question for Dr. Hulfin, our medical director, that we're consulting with, and really what the indications of success are around that. I am not able to keep up with that, because it's really on the medical
Cause you
side.
hear stories going both ways on that, and, you know, you're seeing more success stories on that than
And there are so
failures.
many things that are put out there in the public, you just question what's really accurate and
True.
Hey, Dr. Oz doesn't lie.
Facebook doesn't lie either.
And then Catherine is on the radio occasionally doing,
Every morning.
every morning, doing updates, I think, to the public and answering questions if there are any. So I think you're doing the best you can to get the information out to the people, and we just thought it was, and I should say maybe we should have a briefing from you every board meeting, so we can get up to date on what's going on, so.
Mr. Chair, too, I had a call last week from one of my resorts in my district, and the governor said they could allow people to stay in the cabins, but they could not allow them to stay in RVs, and it was like, does that make any sense? Because, you know, they should be open for business, because he's allowing the fishing opener to go. Everything else is canceled, but the fishing opener is still going, so.
You can golf too, Randy.
Well, that's true.
And same with the drive-ins too. We really want to be sure that we're practicing social distancing. We've had a lot of communication with our resort owners. What we're really asking people to not do is to, if you have a camper that you go and stay at a campsite overnight or for a week at a time, to kind of not do that until the stay-at-home order is lifted. But if it is considered your primary address in the summer times, that is allowed. And so we're doing some education with our resort owners, or if they own into an association with a trailer or an RV that is parked on there 365 days a year, they're not moving it, then that's allowed as well. So we're trying to do the best we can with a lot of gray area that we're given from the state.
Cause my neighborhood, half of them were up from the cities last weekend, so it's like, you know.
And what the DNR says and what the governor says don't even align.
I saw them at Menards.
They were all at Menards.
Left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing, so. Anyway, we're trying our best as a county to do what we can. We've had some issues, but I think some of them have been resolved. But just a matter of doing what we're doing and stay home. And I think our employees are doing a great job at home and getting work done. And so,
Mr. Chair, if I could just add, we have been working very closely with the EOC group in making a plan for reopening whenever that time frame might happen. And we're talking a lot about being able to schedule appointments to come in to make sure that when we do open, we do it in a safe manner and we don't put the public at risk. We continue to allow for that social distancing. So that's definitely something that we've been working hard on to get that kind of hammered out. And we'll also be working with the Emergency Executive Committee to get that plan in place.
We also met yesterday with Judge, they had a court coordination this week with Judge Benson, and we met with Jane Gustafson from the County Attorney's Office yesterday to be sure we're both all on the same track with our visits, and I think we're all doing the best that we can with our hardware that we have, but at this time there still is a stay-at-home order, and we are working remotely. But as we move forward, when things do expire and hopefully things do get back to some normalcy, and how do we transition into that next step too?
okay. Anything else, board? Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you.
All right, standing reports, I usually don't accept them, but I think Randy has something he'd like to discuss, so.
Yes, Mr. Chair. I believe the end of June, we will be required to appoint or reappoint a manager to the Sauk River Watershed District. I guess my question is what kind of criteria does this board want in order to appoint somebody? At their last meeting, it was a 3-hour teleconference, which was quite long. They had a discussion about separating being a ditch authority and the watershed authority. And some of the managers were having a hard time going to 2 meetings a month, okay? That's what the proposal was to separate the ditch, so that would be a separate meeting, and then just the watershed portion of it. And I would have to agree with that, because that would cut that 3-hour meeting down to maybe an hour, hour and a half. But again, if we're appointing people, and do we believe that it should be separated as a board? And what criteria would we like to see these individuals have? I believe they should be reporting back to this board at least once a month or quarterly. Thoughts?
Well, I don't know, when there's a vacancy or a reappointment, you advertise it, right, Denise?
That's correct, yes.
What requirements are there in the advertisement?
There's a handout from the Sauk River Watershed District. It talks about what is required of a Sauk River water management position. Kind of goes through the guideline. I did share that with Chris and Randy when this discussion came up this week. So I just need to know when the posting needs to go out, if the individual doesn't reassign or.
Correct.
Well, in particular, this watershed district only covers Randy's district and mine, part of mine, I don't.
Some of Rod's.
Oh, does it have some of yours, Rod?
Yep.
Okay. Mine is, probably Rod has very little, I would think.
Not too much.
Randy probably has, all of his district maybe,
Majority
huh?
of it, yep.
Yeah, well, mine too, the south. The 2 representatives that we have now are from where? Gary's from Osakis, right?
Yep, on the Lake Association.
And what's the other one?
Tyler Carlson is in Candota.
Okay. Who's up?
Tyler. And I don't know if he's running. He kind of made the statement the other night that he might not refile.
Well, and this separation is news to me. I guess I have to give that a little more thought. But what are the other county boards thinking? Do you know?
Well, I haven't talked to Commissioner Rapp about that, or Commissioner Rodain from Pope. our conversations we've been having is with the One Watershed, One Plan about allowing the Sauk River watershed being a fiscal agent, which I think the three of us are going, we don't think that's a good idea. I have not talked to him about this. I'd like to get together with Pope and Douglas, but with the COVID going on, Commissioner, we can't meet. And it's not, like Commissioner Rogan said, it's not the same doing it on video or teleconference.
No.
We'd rather do it in person and have that conversation.
Well, you certainly could if you kept your distance, have your, you three guys, if you could meet and
Right.
discuss what your boards are thinking. This is news to me, so I guess I got pawned over a little bit in my mind, but,
Well, we got some time
Yeah,
before the end
yeah.
of June, so I mean, it's just something that we need to think about. We have discussed this back in 2008. Remember, Dave?
the
when we were-
separation or?
Well,
or-
when we were down in,
Oh, at that meeting,
Melrose.
yeah, right, okay.
So, and things have went right back to the same old, so it's like, we need to review that and come up with a plan.
Mr. Chair, we put out the advertisement whether or not the person refiles or not, correct?
Right.
For any applicants that are interested or whatever the case. And then when is the actual appointment made?
I think it's,
30th, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah, June 30th.
So when do we send out the things then normally?
I usually print it the first week in June and run it for 2 weeks, and then they have time to get their application in. And then you guys review the applications, and
I
last time you had them come before the
Yeah.
board and
Right.
talk.
Stand
Kind
up
of
and
like
give
an
it.
open interview with them, just to discuss and get to know them and what their credentials are for the position.
Or their interest.
Right. And then I can send that management requirements on to all board members, so you guys can review it, just so you know.
Mr. Chair, this is what you received on Friday.
Oh, you already sent it?
Yep.
and Denise, doesn't
Must
the
have missed
Sauk
it.
River,
Sorry.
doesn't the administrator send you a notification that they're up? As far as, sometimes it's iffy, yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
How many years do they serve?
I think they can go
Isn't it 2
three,
years?
3-year terms, so 9 years total, and then they're done.
Mr. Chair, if I could, Randy or Chris, on that application that's sent out from the watershed area, is there anything that we would want to add on to that as a county, or are they all generic applications or asking for people
No,
to apply?
we could add on.
Is there
Right.
anything we should be?
Well, that's something we need to discuss more. Yeah, I think there is. Their ability to go to 2 meetings a month. If they switch that, I think that's a key. And they used to have 2 meetings a month. Then they cut it back to 1. So, and those meetings have been lasting 3.5 hours. Gets rather long. So,
Mr. Chair, if I may, in the past, when we had these positions come open, there was nothing other than them sending in a letter of interest.
Yep.
It was a few years ago, I sat down and drafted an application just so they could
Okay.
give us some background into their interest and, of the position and what knowledge they had of the watershed district. And that's how we started that. We just have a generic one that we send along with the, job posting type thing.
The posting.
I don't know what the watershed district does on their end. That's just what we derived, because all we were told from them is that it's just my authority as auditor treasurer to post the position and us to appoint the person. So there was no direction given by Sauk River Watershed. That's why we derived that
Right.
little application, just so we could get some history on them.
and then, Mr. Chair, if I may, we did send out the letter that they're discussing about the livestock exclusion requirement. So if you guys all got a chance to read that, that's gonna be a little interesting. They have to hold public hearings on that, so, what they were talking about the other night, they wanna bring it forward, But again, as long as the COVID is in place and public hearings, they can't have one, so. But keep an eye on that one. That one's gonna be interesting, so.
The watershed wants an exclusion?
They wanna implement it.
Do we have that information?
You do.
On
Mr.
that
Chair.
same,
It was in a different
Okay.
email that I sent.
oh, could you send them again?
Yes, I will.
Thank you, because I don't think I caught them.
Yeah, you should have
of emails.
got a copy of that, so please review it and let me know what you think. Okay, that's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Denise, did you have anything?
I have nothing.
Okay. Then we will recess until May, what is it,
19th.
19th. Thank you, guys.
Mhm.